This guy, unable to make a living, was constantly abused by his wife. Yet, no matter how much she belittled and scorned him, he never got angry. While she treated him harshly at home, she'd still slip him some pocket money before he went out. No one would guess that this seemingly incompetent freeloader was once the ace agent of the National Intelligence Service. His name was Jun, the top agent of South Korea's MIS. Like a lightning bolt in the dark, he eliminated enemies swiftly and precisely. He was feared by criminals and idolized by his colleagues. But this seemingly godlike figure secretly harbored a dream of becoming a comic book artist. Orphaned at a young age and left to fend for himself, Jun was recruited by the agency and endured brutal agent training under a merciless instructor, honing extraordinary skills. However, years of successful missions, while bringing him fame, also left him physically and mentally exhausted. He yearned to escape this life of violence and danger to pursue peace and his dream. So, during a mission, Jun staged an elaborate fake death. While parachuting, he pretended to have forgotten his parachute. He fooled everyone. The country and the agency held a grand funeral for him. His captain wept dramatically. Meanwhile, Jun was enjoying his newfound freedom at sea. After successfully faking his death, he disappeared and dedicated himself to creating comics. But reality dealt him a crushing blow. After 15 years of relentless effort, his comics were not only ignored but also mercilessly ridiculed online. He was even mocked as the biggest failure of the century. He secretly created a new online account, but sharp-eyed netizens immediately exposed him. Despite this, his daughter wholeheartedly supported his persistence. She even suggested he incorporate his own experiences into his comics. The editor who published his work was bombarded with criticism from readers and ultimately canceled the series. Jun pleaded for another chance, but was flatly rejected. He was devastated. A once all-powerful agent was now stuck in the mud of life. Faced with the pressures of survival, he shelved his dream and took a job as a construction worker, hauling and carrying heavy loads. The foreman, seeing him as meek and easy to bully, piled on the work and constantly harassed him. But the foreman had no idea that this useless man was actually a super agent. Jun returned home, seething with frustration, and drank alone. He felt pathetic. A grown man, unable to even buy his daughter the electronic piano she desired. Just then, a news report flashed on the TV. A comic book artist had not only paid off all his debts but also bought a house and a car, all thanks to his comics. Looking at the screen filled with insults directed at him, some even suggesting he become a garbage man, he snapped. How could a top agent be mocked like this? In a fit of rage, he destroyed all his old work and, remembering his daughter's advice, decided to draw his own story. He began his comeback journey, fueled by alcohol. He furiously drew, and when inspiration struck, he even threw in a few punches and kicks. But the next morning, sobering up, he found his wife transformed. Not only was she speaking sweetly, but she had also prepared a lavish meal. Jun was bewildered. It turned out that while he was sleeping, his wife had posted all his work online. Unexpectedly, it was met with overwhelming praise. Netizens were showering it with likes. Jun panicked, thinking, "I'm doomed," because the stories he drew were all based on his real-life experiences. National secrets were at stake. If exposed, not only would his faked death be revealed, but he could also be hunted down by enemies. He rushed to the publishing company, begging the editor to take down his work, explaining he'd been drunk and delusional. But the editor refused. "I've supported you, you good-for-nothing, for 15 years, and finally you create a hit. There's no way I'm taking it down. If alcohol fuels your inspiration, go home and drink some more." Left with no choice, Jun headed home. Halfway there, it started to drizzle. Remembering his daughter hadn't taken an umbrella, he grabbed a tattered one and waited for her at the school gates. To his dismay, he saw her about to get into a luxurious car with a classmate. He saw the other girl's father, impeccably dressed in a suit, while he still relied on his wife's handouts. He felt a pang of disappointment. Back home, he stumbled upon his daughter's diary. She wrote about how his poverty drove her mother to drink. She wanted to earn money to help him pay off debts and buy a big house. Despite his tough exterior, Jun couldn't hold back his tears. Determined to give his family a better life, he decided to take a gamble. Jun continued pouring his experiences into his comics. This time, his pen moved as if guided by a divine hand. He no longer struggled for plot lines, he simply relived his past. He quickly crafted vibrant characters and a gripping narrative. As expected, the new installment was a hit online, especially among students. His daughter was incredibly proud. Even the foreman who used to bully him became a devoted fan. The editor who once scorned him now looked at him with newfound respect. Their finances improved, and his daughter finally got the electronic keyboard she'd always dreamed of. However, the comic's popularity eventually caught the attention of the NIS. June's stories not only closely mirrored real cases, but also used the real names of many agents. Wasn't this clear evidence that June had faked his death and was using his comics to sell national secrets? The director immediately ordered June's arrest. Meanwhile, at the construction site, the foreman was berating June for his slow work and laziness. Just as he was ranting, a group of agents suddenly appeared. As a top agent, June instantly recognized their hostile intent. He bolted for the restroom. Knowing his cover was blown, he dropped the act. Though years had passed, his skills remained sharp. He swiftly took down the agents. The foreman, watching in terror, wet himself. He never imagined this seemingly gentle man could be so brutal. June couldn't resist teasing the terrified foreman. Knowing his identity was exposed, June rushed home, packed his bags, and called his wife, confessing his agent past and urging her to flee with him. But she thought he was just rambling drunkenly and hung up. June knew he couldn't explain everything over the phone, so he frantically searched for his secret stash of cash, planning to escape. But the emergency fund he'd been saving for 15 years wasn't even enough to buy kimchi. Just then, a smoke bomb exploded. Quick thinking, June used a clothespin as a makeshift gas mask. Several Special Forces officers burst through the window. These guys were clearly more professional. After a brief struggle, June easily dispatched two, but the last one proved to be a formidable match. The fight continued until the officer removed his helmet, revealing a handsome face. June realized this agent was his #1 fan. From a young age, Chul idolized June, modeling himself after the ace agent and dreaming of one day reaching the same heights. At June's funeral, Chul had been the most distraught mourner. Before the two could properly reminisce, the director, playing dirty, launched a surprise attack from behind. Simultaneously, Simon, the criminal June had once captured, used information from the comics to locate the publishing house. He injured June's colleague and demanded June's home address. It turned out June, in a moment of laziness, had drawn the criminal's likeness directly into his comic. Meanwhile, back at the NIS headquarters, June was frantically explaining that the comic was an accident and he hadn't betrayed anyone. But the director was unconvinced. He insisted that June, unable to bear the shame of being a freeloader, had conspired with criminals, selling national secrets for wealth. The captain, furious and hurt, felt betrayed not only by the faked death, but even more so by the leaked secrets. He confronted June, demanding to know why he'd been deceived, especially after being treated like a son. The two argued fiercely, neither willing to back down. Only Chul believed in June's innocence, secretly slipping him a phone. June immediately called his wife. His wife, Mina, had been captured by Simon. Simon demanded that June bring the captain to him within 20 minutes, threatening to cut off one of Mina's fingers every 5 minutes. Simon's hatred stemmed from an incident 15 years prior. June had captured him, but Simon escaped. Later, they apprehended Simon's brother, Sangu. During interrogation, there had been an accident. Sangu was electrocuted. However, his death wasn't entirely unjust, as he'd been responsible for dozens of murders. June, his heart ablaze, knew Simon's revenge wouldn't be easily appeased. But escaping to rescue his wife presented a formidable challenge. His mind raced. Remembering the captain's nicotine addiction, he requested a cigarette, promising to reveal everything after he'd smoked it. The captain, falling for the ruse, sat down. June, seizing the opportunity, swiftly incapacitated the captain, then used a pen to unlock his handcuffs and shackles. As reinforcements arrived, he took the captain hostage and escaped. The director, enraged, could only watch as June fled. But as the head of the NIS, he couldn't let this stand. He immediately ordered his men to capture June's daughter, intending to use her as leverage. Such tactics were no different from those of terrorists. After escaping, June immediately turned off his phone to prevent being tracked and demanded that the captain do the same. The captain slyly claimed he hadn't brought his phone. June, skeptical, searched him but found nothing. Soon, the director had June's daughter in custody. Unable to reach June, he frantically called the captain, using the girl's life to force June's surrender. June's situation was dire. He held a marriage certificate in one hand and a birth certificate in the other. He knew the NIS was capable of any atrocity, and Simon was a ruthless thug. Seeing her husband arriving alone to rescue her, Mina was deeply moved. She cried out, "Honey, stop, just leave me." But in the next moment, June turned the car around, leaving Mina stunned. "I was just being polite. You're actually leaving?" Simon, standing beside her, was equally dumbfounded. "I'm a notorious criminal. You're disrespecting me? Do you want me to stab your wife right now?" June quickly explained, "I absolutely meant no disrespect. I just need to save my daughter first. Then I'll come back and apologize." Simon was fuming, but luckily, Chul, sensing trouble, had cleverly smuggled June's daughter to safety. Upon receiving this news, June rushed to meet them. As they reunited, Chul raised his gun, ordering June to surrender. But June's daughter intervened, telling Chul that June considered him a brother. "Please, sir, spare my dad. He's not a spy. Have you ever seen such an incompetent spy? He can't even afford a loaf of bread and always has to beg my mom for money. All he does is draw comics. He gets yelled at work and abused by my mom at home. I beg you, please let him go." June urged her to stop, realizing she was exposing all his embarrassing secrets rather than pleading for his release. Fortunately, the misunderstanding was cleared up. The three decided to join forces and rescue Mina. "Untie me." June led them to his old safe house. The captain stared in disbelief at the room full of weapons. Looks like he was prepared. After selecting their weapons, they prepared for action. Just as they were about to leave, the director and his men arrived. June, seeing this, spun around and punched Chul, knocking him to the ground. He wanted to stage a scene to protect Chul's career. "It's just acting. Did you have to hit so hard?" After knocking Chul unconscious, June and the captain reached Simon's hideout. "Take your wife back. She drinks even more than my men." A drunken Mina stumbled out. As June moved towards her, Simon's thugs attacked him. Seeing her husband being beaten, Mina sprang into action, taking down the thugs one by one. Anyone watching would have thought she was a secret agent, but it was all in Mina's drunken imagination. After seeing June turn the car around, she assumed he was cowardly. So in a fit of rage, she chugged Simon's prized vintage wine. Simon roared, "You killed my brother, and your wife drank my precious wine. I'll have my revenge." He sentenced June and the captain to the same electrocution treatment his brother suffered. The captain was bewildered. "Your revenge is on them. What does it have to do with me?" But Simon, ignoring his protests, forced June to administer the electric shocks to the captain. Afterwards, Simon decided to burn them all alive as ultimate retribution for his brother. Just then, the director arrived with a large force. A fierce firefight ensued, quickly suppressing the criminal's firepower. The director soon regained control, but he still believed June was a traitor. Despite June's pleas, the director remained determined to execute him on the spot. Just as the shot was fired, Chul jumped in front of June, taking the bullet. "Wake up, brother," June cried, holding the dying Chul. Suddenly, the agents around the director began falling. One of Simon's men, taking advantage of the chaos, had seized a vantage point. June tried to counterattack but was shot multiple times by Simon. Seeing his idol indirectly killed by his own people, Chul, enraged, unleashed a torrent of insults at the director. "What kind of leader are you? Did you buy your position?" The director, furious, retorted, "Is that how you talk to your superior?" The captain quickly intervened, calming things down. The director's face was red with anger. Amidst the chaos, June suddenly stood up, firing a shot that detonated a distant gas tank. He had been wearing 2 bulletproof vests, intended for his wife and daughter, but they ended up saving his life. The captain, intending to rescue Mina and her daughter, was intercepted. Having spent too long behind a desk, he was no match in hand-to-hand combat. He resorted to drastic measures to take down his opponent. Meanwhile, Simon, seeing the situation turn sour, fled into a room. June pursued him and they engaged in close combat. June, unarmed, fought fiercely, beating Simon relentlessly before finally delivering a decisive kick that sent him flying. Mission accomplished. June officially retired, resuming his comic book career. Chul fulfilled his dream, becoming the new ace agent. June's wife, finally aware of his true profession, treated him with newfound respect. His daughter proudly boasted about her father to her friends. And that concludes our story for today. See you in the next video.